Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ALS United Mid-Atlantic Goals podcast. My name is Tony Heil with ALS United Mid-Atlantic, and this is our 31st or 32nd podcast that we've posted here, talking with people with different perspectives when it comes to the ALS cause. This includes people living with ALS, our social workers and nurses, researchers, and even some people outside of ALS who share our mission to fully fund research and to help develop new treatments and cures for diseases like ALS and better advance our understanding of the brain. We are really proud at ALS United Mid-Atlantic to have a great team of compassionate and smart nurses and social workers and other healthcare professionals who are there for our patients and families every day. We serve over 1,200 people living with ALS each year in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, and everyone is unique with their disease progressing in a different way or what they need in their home. And so our nurses and social workers and other professionals do a lot to make sure that they are there for them every step of the way. Today I'm going to be talking with one of those nurses who does a great job at our Penn State Health Hershey Medical Center Treatment Center, and her name is Annette Miller. Easy name to say, easy name to spell, but her job is not easy, and we appreciate it every day. So Annette, thanks for talking today.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Glad to be here.
So I need to get a little bit of an introduction to your background. You're a nurse here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic. You've been a nurse for some time though, right?
Long time. 45 years?
In a row?
In a row.
That doesn't make sense. No, I'm
Thanks.
sure it was really only like 25 years because that doesn't add up to me.
I like to make myself sound, more experienced than I am, actually.
Well, you bring a lot of experience to the role, and I think our patients who come to the clinic have really appreciated knowing that the people who care for them, like yourself and Dr. Simmons and the doctors there, that they have a great deal of experience or varied experience. So the people who come to the clinic, they know they can trust your judgment and that you have something smart to say.
Hopefully, I think this job has a lot of autonomy. So I think it's really important to have that experience coming to a job like this because, as you can see, I'm working in my home office. So I don't have somebody here to turn to and say, hey, what would you do? Now, our team is extremely supportive. We do call each other a lot. And of course, the docs are always available for us if we have any questions. But we have a lot of autonomy in this job. So, you want to feel confident and the information that you're providing to the patients is accurate. And we do a lot of that.
So, what year did you start here? Because you started you haven't been here throughout your 45 years.
No.
When did you start with ALS United Mid-Atlantic?
10 years ago, almost to the day.
And did you have experience with ALS before you came here or with patients like ALS?
Well, I did hospice 10 years prior to coming to the ALS clinic. So I had ALS patients in hospice. But I tell you, the ALS patients terrified me because it was a disease I didn't know a lot about. And so there were things that I wasn't really sure how you handled. But the thing I learned very quickly with my ALS hospice patients was I just needed to know hospice because they had such great caregivers and they had the support of the ALS team as well. So I just added to the team and, brought my experience with hospice to that already established team.
And you say when you speak with patients now, you can speak with some authority and autonomy and some confidence, but obviously, there was some concern dealing with the complexities of ALS. What made you feel comfortable joining our organization 10 years ago?
Well, I think because I'd had that, although limited experience with the ALS patients, I was still dealing with people that are basically at end of life. That's not our focus with the ALS team, certainly not like it was in hospice. Now I have to know when it's time to refer on to hospice. But I felt really confident knowing that I could handle the aspects of their care that I needed to, with having dealt with end of life, with having that little bit of ALS experience. But patient care is patient care. And so, I with my experience, I've worked in all aspects of nursing, starting in a nursing home on up to ICU nursing and then ALS or hospice and now ALS for the last 20 years of my career. So, yeah, I wouldn't have had that confidence when I was a younger nurse, that's for sure. And even joining the team, finding, this is a different model of nursing as well. Even though hospice, I had a lot of autonomy in that job. I had to think on my feet. I always say we have to MacGyver things. People that are old enough. Well, I guess that shows back, but um,
I
that
understand it.
yeah, that know what that means. You have to figure it out. And that's what we help our patients do and their caregivers. We help them figure it out. I always tell people my job is to help them live with this disease, not die from it. So that's an important aspect of what we do at the ALS clinic.
And I really appreciate that, and I think our families do as well. You established such a great bond with so many of them that you probably know so many by their first names.
Oh yeah.
When you started here, so now a nurse at a hospital is different from a nurse at a different kind of clinic and a different way than what we do here. What makes being a nurse at ALS United Mid-Atlantic that role different than what you would do as a nurse in a regular hospital?
Well, first of all, I'm not hands-on.
Mhm.
So my role, my grandson would say to me, Nanny, how are you a nurse and you work from home? That doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But my role is so different. I'm managing their care. So a lot of people are familiar with the case management model now because it's been around a while and a lot of doctors' offices are doing it, insurance companies are doing it. But so I'm managing all aspects of care, but not in a physical manner. I'm not providing that care. I'm advising, I'm supporting, I'm, ordering equipment for them if they need it. Med refills, new meds, they might call me up or email me and say, I've got this symptom today. Is this ALS? And helping them understand that or helping them find the person that can help them if I can't. But, that's the big difference. It's not hands-on. So it's helping them figure out again how to solve things or where to go for answers if I can't provide them.
I know it's a team approach at the clinics. When someone comes to one of our multidisciplinary ALS treatment centers, they will see up to 12 different professionals at one visit, right? So
Yeah.
you are there as part of the team debrief and go over things with the professionals, the other team members, to develop a plan for that family, right? How does that work?
Mhm. So, of course, I'm not always in clinic. There's four of us nurses, and we alternate through there. But as you say, at the end of each clinic day, we have a team meeting. We get on teams, and everybody gives their recommendations. Actually, we throughout the day at clinic, they are typed into um, the Hershey medical system that we use, the medical record system. It's typed in there, and we add or take away from those on that meeting. We discuss each patient, and the disciplines weigh in on their thoughts and their recommendations for that patient. And then it's my job then as the patient's care manager to make sure those recommendations get to the patient in whatever manner we've already established. Email, some of them want them texted now. They're a little long for that. Or we might still have to snail mail them because not everybody, we do work with an elderly population as well as younger ones now, certainly. But so those recommendations go out to them. And some of those recommendations may be things that I have to do, such as order equipment, um, s- set up for repair of their wheelchair, for instance, or maybe they've decided they want to get a feeding tube. So I work with the team there at Hershey that we use or their local facilities to get that underway for them. And then we work as a team. Other people have since I brought up the feeding tube, then I work with our nutritionist to get things ordered for that patient as well. So there's a lot of things that we do, and we do work as a team. And so that meeting is really helpful because those who are at clinic, have seen that patient most recently. I might not see them for several months in person. So that helps me to understand what's really going on there. And as always happens, the patients will tell people there in clinic things they haven't told me. I'll find out things and I'll say, I just talked to them yesterday, and they're more comfortable sharing some things with some people and not others. So it's a great model that we have with the multidisciplinary team.
Yeah, and I've talked with Dr. Simmons about how they are looking at studying the effectiveness of the multidisciplinary team so they can get others to practice that as well, maybe beyond ALS. And because it's a team, you also are a mentor to others. You and before you, Sue Walsh, Maureen Reed, and others. So we have some newer nurses and professionals working at that clinic, Erin King and Shannon, who are new to the clinic. How have you helped them integrate into our system and nurture them to adapt to these roles?
Yeah, well, they're fantastic. Our nurses are all much younger than me, and might not have the experience coming to this clinic, but they are fantastic and just they what I love about our team is it's a group of really caring, kind, professional, knowledgeable people, and these new nurses certainly fit the bill for that. They're not afraid to come to me for advice and for guidance. It's become a funny thing because all of a sudden I'm the senior nurse there. You mentioned Sue and Maureen, and Sue started this clinic. Maureen followed in her footsteps, and her husband had ALS, so she had a personal I don't want to say attachment. I can't find my word, but she had a personal connection to this disease, certainly. Um, but it's funny to find myself in that role now all the sudden, and it's been great because I do feel like I have a lot to offer, with my experience and all of that. So, we chat often, and I love that, and even Kirsty, who's been there a little bit longer than the two new girls, but she'll call me up and say, I just don't know what to do about this. And I really appreciate that they come to me. And um, so yeah, it's such a supportive team. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, I really like seeing Kirsty and Shannon and Aaron at advocacy or at
Yeah.
the walk and other events. And it feels like as soon as they started, they were just part of what we do. Kirsty, I know, has an ALS connection as well, and in her family, and it just you can tell she has the same culture and feeling about this as anyone else. And it feels like you and the people who came before you and afterwards, it's about that culture of caring that starts from day one.
I think like hospice, I always said, people say to me all the time, how do you do what you do? Because, hospice is rough to do and ALS isn't much different, honestly. I mean, we're dealing with people experience, the most difficult aspect of their lives, this stage. And, you know, it- I always say I don't think that you choose this profession, it chooses you. I think that to be in this type of nursing, you have to have a calling to it. You have to have, I think we're all called to different things. I couldn't do what you do, Tony. So many other people, I couldn't do it. But I think when we're called to do what we're doing, I think we are equipped to do that within ourselves. And so, when we're right where we need to be, which is what I feel like I am, and I feel like Kirsty and Aaron and Shannon, we're all where we are meant to be. And so we bring that compassion and caring that's built within us.
And you bring that compassion and caring also to connecting patients and caregivers to the services at ALS United Mid-Atlantic. What is your job in making sure that they get certain services and understand what's available to them? How does that connection happen through you and the clinic?
So that's part of my case management. Identifying the need when you're talking to them, emailing, whatever, you identify that need, and then you have to figure out where the services are coming from. And we have so many great services, and we talk to them about that from day one. We connect with these patients when they're diagnosed. That's where our bond starts with them. Um, and so we tell them day one, what we have available. But what I always say to people is, I know all you're going to hear today, diagnostic day. We give them tons of information, both verbally and written. And I tell them, I know the only thing they're going to remember from today is I have ALS. So that follow up, and then they're always surprised when I say, well, we have a loan closet for that. We can get them equipment, certain equipment. We've got a program for that. We can help you find caregivers, or maybe we have a little bit of financial support available for that. We have patients that have no insurance. So these programs are amazing, to be able to get them something out of the loan closet and that they don't have to pay for, at all. And the equipment sometimes is nicer than what we get if we rent it, if they rent it. Um, to have our social worker available and to tell them about the programs that we have. Um, and I think that in our area, in the Hershey area, there's a lot of programs that are up and coming too. We don't have maybe the van support, the transportation support that you have down there in Philly, but so much of that stuff is being developed, and I see us just growing in the amount of services that we can provide to our patients, which is wonderful.
And I know that your patient population seems to be growing as well,
Yes.
largely
Yeah.
because of the reputation that the clinic has. And, we talk about Sue and Dr. Simmons, who started it 30 years ago, but Dr. Grogan, Dr. Sue, and others who are there, and Dr. Geronimo, and the research that's happening there. You've seen for the past 10 years what's happened at Penn State Health Hershey Medical Center. I'm coming at it from a distance, though I've toured the center and been there many times. It feels like the population has grown for ALS patients, and the reputation just continues to improve over time, every year.
I agree. I say that all the time. Like, people are always like, well, is ALS like more prevalent now? Are more people getting it? And Dr. Simmons always says no, that it's not. But so I always say I think we're better at diagnosing it, for one thing. People are recognizing it earlier. We're definitely diagnosing people earlier than what we used to be. Um, but I think, as you said, our reputation, and I always attributed that to Dr. Simmons and now to our other great neurologists, Dr. Sue and Dr. Grogan. But we went from, Sue Walsh starting the clinic with Dr. Simmons and her being the only nurse, to now we have 4 nurses and we are busy. We have heavy caseloads. And so it has really grown. And I agree with you. I think it's the reputation, definitely. I think we provide a lot. I don't know how other clinics work necessarily, except what the patients tell me if they've come from other clinics. But a lot of them don't have the multidisciplinary team that we have. And I think it's really important. They'll come to us and say, oh my gosh, I never heard from anybody in between clinic visits. I never had a nurse call me. Like, I think that us providing that nurse case manager is unique in a lot of ways. And, we struggled to have them understand how to use us when we first meet them. I have patients that call me all the time, and I have patients I never hear from, and I reach out from them. And I've had people say to me, I don't want to hear from you. Everybody handles things differently, and they handle this disease differently, certainly. And I have to always say to myself, how would I be, to try and to understand that everybody comes at it very differently. But I do think that the amount of services and support that they get from us is unique, and I think it's wonderful.
And it feels like Hershey Medical Center, because of where you are, is like the repository for people with not just ALS, but other diseases in the middle of Pennsylvania. I
Mhm.
know that you've had people from Tioga County, which is on the New York border, and there's like 30 people that live in Tioga County. But I know a person with ALS from there, who they use telemedicine to connect with Hershey Medical Center. And that was the best thing for them, because there wasn't really a neurologist in their area who had a team that could take care of them. So you probably have a lot of patients and families who are from areas that would otherwise be very underserved. Is that right?
Absolutely. And you can't see behind me, but I live in one of those areas. I'm up in Juniata County in the middle of nowhere. So, I would kind of be in the same boat maybe. Um, but telehealth has been great. And, we pioneered that at Hershey. We were the first people doing that at Hershey. So when COVID hit, it was nothing. I mean, people were loving they were off work, and we were like, we haven't missed a beat, you know? So, nothing lacked in our services during that time, but it has been great. And, we have patients from all over Pennsylvania, but I've had patients from as far as Michigan, New York. I mean, we've had them. Michigan was a personal tie for me, and, I wanted them to benefit from our clinic and Dr. Simmons at the time. But I I have patients in Maryland, all over. They come to us sometimes for a second diagnosis, and they meet us and they want to stay. So, yeah, and the telehealth has been great as not only for the distance, but as people progress and they can't leave their home. It's a really good thing for them to, to continue to maintain that contact. Sometimes we get to the place where we don't feel like maybe we're doing as much for them as we did previously, but they get so attached to us and our neurologists, and I feel like we're kind of like the barometer of how they're doing when they come to clinic or they connect with us, and we tell them, we're their cheerleaders. We tell them, you're doing great. Your family's doing great with their care providing, and so still being able to connect with us through telehealth has been a gift, really.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive. And I know we have other treatment centers in our area, like Thomas Jefferson University, Jefferson Weinberg Center, Lehigh Valley Health Network. That's just in Pennsylvania, Geisinger system that are growing in reputation. Those are all, we're really proud to have them in our ALS United network. Um, One thing you also mentioned is about people being diagnosed sooner and helping them with services sooner. And it reminded me of one of my first weeks here. My grandfather had ALS, but I didn't go to his clinic appointments. And I did go to one clinic appointment here to see how clinic was run. And I saw that the nurses were talking with a patient about a peg tube and understanding it early in the diagnosis so that they could not be afraid of what that meant, just to take care of things while they could communicate, etc. How important is it for you to have conversations early about care and to approach that with sensitivity so that people know, okay, I should start applying for this kind of device or this kind of service now instead of waiting until the need is greater?
Yeah, you have to be really sensitive to um, how they're handling things. As I said before, some people, I always say we have people that are proactive and we have people that are reactive. And it's really important, the saying, know your audience. There's some people that I don't bring these things up with because I know it's going to upset them. And then there's other people that I do bring it up as early as I can so that we can be proactive. It's really important. And, their decisions often change throughout the course of this disease, too. They may early on say, no, I'm not doing anything, take me out in the woods, and leave me there when I get bad. And, everybody's so different. But we talk about goals of care and we try and get that established. We don't do it at diagnosis, and we don't do it at their first clinic appointment unless it's really obvious that discussion needs to be had. But then we try and talk about their goals of care. Are they somebody that's going to want a peg tube? Are they going to want to be on a trach and vent eventually? What do they feel like that's going to look like for them going forward? And sometimes they just don't know. And as I said, sometimes they just don't want to discuss it. And I understand that, some people don't even want to be in a wheelchair, use a wheelchair when it would be helpful, just a regular wheelchair to go to the mall. They don't want to do that. Oh, are there malls anymore? That's an old reference. Sorry. um, but, to them, it's giving up and giving into the disease. So we often have the discussion of, these are tools or these are weapons against ALS. You have to look at ALS as I need to overcome it. And that's not giving in. That's saying I'm not giving up. I'm still going to the mall because I can go in a chair, And so I think it's really important. And that's the beauty of our job is we do get to know our patients. We get to know their families. And So building that trust with them from day one, helping them understand what it is we can do, and to, hopefully they understand this is not judgment on our part whatsoever. We provide information, we provide options, and it's up to them to decide what they want to do, how they want this, how they want to travel this road. We're just here to help them with that and provide what they need.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And especially some of those devices, it feels scary to have to use one. I know people in my family who they don't want to use a chair, doesn't of various kinds. They don't want to use a walker. And then when they have it, it's like, oh, I wish I had gotten this earlier. But I was at an event with a friend with ALS last night, and he has a scooter type chair, and he zoomed along, and he loves his chair,
Those scooters are
and
awesome.
he was able to get close up to the show and move around. And not only that, one thing I noticed at this show I was at was there was another person in a more expansive wheelchair. He had an I don't know his condition, but it felt like there was greater sensitivity from the staff to understand
Mhm,
how to care for him.
mhm.
That other person, they were helping him out with his equipment, making sure no one budged it. um, in your experience, do you think that there's a greater understanding and sensitivity and awareness of not just ALS, but disabilities and taking care of people than maybe there was when you first got involved, not just here, but with nursing?
Oh, I think so because, we've evolved so much with, first of all, with the equipment that's available to them. And, I don't know, we've all had to learn that, just because somebody's in a wheelchair doesn't change who they are. Back when I did hospice, I'd always ask to see pictures of that person when they were a healthy person, because it's really important that you see the person and not the disease. You see the person and not the wheelchair. And not every, certainly not the whole world is good at that. But I think just as people, we've come a long way with that. I don't think we're as afraid of these diseases as maybe what we used to be. And that, there's a lot more information out there, and we've got social media. We've got young people like Brooke Eby, out there normalizing this disease. And so, you know, I think it's a good thing that, social media can be an awful thing, but it can be a good thing to educate all of us and help us to see these people for who they are inside, and not what we're seeing, as a person who can't walk, or they're in a wheelchair, or they've got, whatever. All we used to know was Stephen Hawking, and he was a little scary. So
Hmm.
now we know normal people who have them.
Right. And honestly, my friend with the scooter was able to get around faster than I could. So,
Exactly.
he's getting around because the chair could zoom around. And I think that sometimes we don't always appreciate that. But
And you can
speaking
get
of
better
events,
seats.
we did, yeah. Speaking of events, you are often at our ALS United Mid-Atlantic events. You've participated in the walks, the luncheons at Longwood Gardens, other luncheons, advocacy, etc. Are there any favorite memories or moments you've had in your time here that you want to make sure other people know they're special and that they should do too?
Well, I love the walks. Unfortunately, I couldn't get there this year because of a family event. But the walks, I always tell the patients, they're such a fun day. They're a feel good day. They're a rah rah day. People hear walk and they think, well, I can't come to the walk because I can't walk. And so, to tell them that, oh, you're going to see everything. You're going to see people in chairs. You're going to see people on walkers. You're going to see people you don't even know have ALS. And the walk is symbolic. Let's face it. The actual walking, that's symbolic. It's about what we're there to raise awareness, to raise money. There's always a DJ. There's always music going, people dancing. If you come to the Hershey walk, the last couple years, the neurology department's bought an actual brain that you can hold.
Yeah,
I
my
danced.
son felt that. He thought it was the coolest thing. So that
Yeah,
was
I
his
danced with
favorite
him the
walk.
other year, the brain. But, there's food, there's the camaraderie. And, I love that event. I love Longwood Gardens. That's always such a great event. What I love most about no matter what the event is the opportunity to hang out as friends instead of, I'm your case manager. We get to sit and have real conversations with them. We meet their extended family, the grandkids are there or whatever. And I love Knobles too for that reason, because I take my grandkids and they've got their grandkids there. So, that normalizing of everything again, that's why I love those events. They're just on a different level than clinic. And clinic, I'm going to tell you though, we try and keep clinic really light too. We laugh a lot at clinic. And we just try and keep it light. Some people don't like that maybe, but it can be such a heavy day. And it's a day, again, where I say we're like their barometer. They may come and the reality is my breathing is worse. Or the therapist is telling me I should no longer be walking. You don't always hear good news when you come. So I think it's really important that we keep it light. We're their cheerleaders. We're there to support them on so many levels. But we cry with them too. And this disease brings every emotion.
Well, one way you and the team at our multidisciplinary centers have supported our patients and families is by advancing research as well. I know that even if you are not a researcher yourself, that's not your job. You help direct people to research programs. You help encourage people to participate in them. Since you've been here, we've had new treatments approved for regular sporadic ALS and for the genetic form of ALS with one of the treatments that's out. How have you seen research advance while you're there, and how does that make you feel hopeful for the next 10 years?
I think research is at such an exciting level right now. I mean, I feel like we have so far to go, but to see the things that have come in the last few years, and just had the opportunity several months ago to tour a research lab that I didn't even know existed at Hershey. And that was so exciting. They're doing all this research on fruit flies. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm simple-minded, but the whole time I'm going, how on earth are they working on these teeny tiny little fruit flies? So of course I ask, and they're like, well, we have really powerful microscopes. Well, duh, but
I mean, the flies are very simple-minded too.
well, sure. The flies were like, yeah, we get her. No, but it was super exciting to see what they were doing. And these researchers, they are live, eat, breathing, sleeping this stuff. I mean, they're so dedicated. They're as dedicated to this research as we are to helping our patients. And it was so exciting to see what they were doing and the advances that I feel we are on the cusp of. And, we had patients touring with us, and they felt the same way. They were it energized me, and I think it energized them to realize that good things are happening. I'm in the day-to-day trenches of, this care. And I have to admit, research, yes, I deal with it, but mostly in the way that I contact the researchers to reach out to the patients, because that's what they know. And I don't know tons about it, but it's really exciting to realize that there are things coming, and to keep that fundraising up, to keep doing the walk, to keep doing all those things, because it's making a difference. The Ice Bucket Challenge kicked us off years ago. And, I think sometimes people forget that we're still around. I think they think, oh, they did that Ice Bucket Challenge, they cured that disease. Well, no, we're not, I don't think we're too close to a cure, but boy, the treatments on the horizon are exciting, I think.
Well, we really appreciate what you've done to participate in that, to really improve our care at Hershey Medical Center and to help our patients along the way. You can learn more about Annette and visit our website at alsmidatlantic.org. That's also where you can find out more about our events like our ALS United Walk and other events and opportunities to support the ALS cause. And of course, you can follow us on social media at ALS Mid-Atlantic. Annette, I really appreciate you talking today and sharing your experience, your over 40 years of experience here with us. Well, not with us, but just as a nurse, and what you've done for ALS in general. Please, if you're listening, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment and review, because it helps us get more attention. And we appreciate anything that you can do, whether you donate, volunteer, or advocate to help us advance ALS care and research. So thank you, Annette. I can't wait to see you
Thank
at
you.
another event soon.
Thanks, Tony.